The red planet has been the object of scientists' fascination for a while now. In the past few years, dozens of crewless spacecrafts, including orbiters and rovers, have been sent to Mars by the Soviet Union, the United States, Europe, India, the UAE, and China in order to study the surface, climate, and geology of the red planet. These missions have revealed a lot of strange and exciting secrets about Mars and have revolutionized the fields of astronomy and planetary science. Here are 20 of the most insane things NASA has found on Mars so far. Number 1. Monolith. Mars has two moons, Phobos and Deimos, and Efrain Palermo, who conducted an extensive survey of the Martian probe imagery, discovered a monolith on the surface of Phobos. His findings were later confirmed by Lan Fleming, an imaging subcontractor at the NASA Johnson Space Center. The monolith is actually a huge rock on the moon's surface. It is a boulder measuring almost 85 meters across and is 90 meters tall. A monolith is often described as a geological feature consisting of a single, massive piece of rock. These do naturally occur on Earth too, but scientists at NASA were not expecting to find one on Mars's moon. That's why some experts think it could be impact ejects. This monolith is a bright boulder located near the Stickney crater. It has been described as a building-sized boulder that casts distinct shadow. It first appeared in images captured by Mars Global Surveyor in 1998. Scientists are planning to use the area around this monolith as a landing site for the robotic mission to Phobos called the Phobos Reconnaissance and International Mars Exploration, or PRIME. This monolith is completely unrelated to another rectangular monolith that was discovered on the surface of Mars. This one is located near the bottom of a cliff from which it probably fell, according to scientists. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter took its photos from about 300 kilometers away, therefore it's difficult to comment on its physical features. Number 2. Ice cliffs. For quite some time now, scientists have suspected that smooth material covering the mid-latitudes of Mars could be ice. The ground here is uniform and dusty, and sometimes the images from the high-resolution imaging science experiment camera on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter provides us a glimpse of the ice that might be buried below the surface. This particular image from Mars shows a cliff jutting out of the originally smooth terrain, and this cliff is covered in bright, shimmering ice. High-Rise team member Shane Byrne has stated that the bright material on the cliff face is definitely icy and is preserved only because the cliff points away from the equator, so it remains under shade most of the time. The faint bands visible on the cliff might indicate layers in the ice that record different climate conditions. Not a lot is known about how much time it took the ice to accumulate here and form a cliff. However, the studies on Mars suggest that material like this is often tens of millions of years old. The cliff in this image is one of the few dozen that have been spotted in the region, but experts are worried that if sunlight hits these icy cliffs and if they're steep enough, avalanches could occur as the ice melts away. Number 3. Super eruptions. So far, Mars doesn't seem like a very hospitable place. Recently it was discovered that roughly 4 billion years ago, a region of the dusty planet called the Arabia Terra was shaken by thousands of powerful and explosive volcanic super eruptions. These explosions filled the atmosphere with overwhelming amounts of dust and toxic gases. Experts believe that each eruption possibly altered the Martian climate for decades at a time. These happened over a span of 500 million years, which means that during the earlier days, Mars was pretty much like Earth. According to geologist Patrick Welly of NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, each one of these eruptions significantly impacted the climate. The gas released probably made the atmosphere thicker or even blocked the sun, thereby drastically lowering the atmospheric temperature. Thanks to the data from the Compact Reconnaissance Imaging Spectrometer for Mars, or CRISM, Welly and his colleagues have been able to uncover the disastrous past of the red planet. The terrain of Mars is peppered with huge depressions that were considered craters up until now. But this new discovery has led the experts to consider another possibility, that maybe they are calderas. Number 4. Pearl clouds. Mars is not short on wind and dust devils, but unlike Earth, it doesn't possess remarkable clouds. That is until you see the images of Martian clouds taken by NASA's Curiosity rover. Scientists noticed these clouds began forming on Mars earlier than they had anticipated, so in 2022 they laid in wait to ensure that Curiosity caught some pictures of these stunning ethereal formations. Some of these clouds took on pretty colorful characteristics. Researchers found that the earliest clouds appeared at higher altitudes, but unlike Earth's clouds, these high-flying Martian variants were most likely made of dry ice and frozen carbon dioxide. But the idea is still under investigation. Curiosity captured a suite of cloud views last year. Some of these ghostly wisps were noctilucent, or night-shining clouds made of water ice. NASA stated in a release of the clouds forming just after sunset, their ice crystals catch the fading light, causing them to appear to glow in the darkening sky. The rover also snapped a panorama of the mesmerizing mother-of-pearl iridescent clouds in all their glory. This panorama was taken by the mast camera, or Mastcam, as a series of 23 images, 5 of which were stitched together to produce this mind-blowing scene. Number 5. Seismic activity. Believe it or not, but this year NASA InSight lander detected the biggest quake ever found on a planet other than Earth. It was a Mars quake having a magnitude of 5, and it rocked the dusty terrain of the Red Planet on May 4, 2022. Bruce Bannett, InSight's principal investigator at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, said they've been waiting for the big one since the day they set their seismometers down on Mars in December 2018. This quake is definitely going to provide a unique perspective and view of the planet. Scientists are eager to analyze this data to learn new things about Mars. Since touchdown in 2018, InSight has detected almost 1,313 quakes on Mars. So far, the largest one had a magnitude of 4.2, and it occurred on August 25, 2021. Mars quakes are like the earthquakes most of us have experienced on Earth, but the reason they occur varies with each planet. A 6-magnitude quake would be considered a medium-sized one on Earth, but for Mars, it reached a new record for seismic activity. The Martian crust is like a single giant plate, unlike the Earth's, which is made up of multiple tectonic plates. This Martian crust has faults and fractures within it because the planet is shrinking as it cools down. This in turn puts stresses on the crust, stretching and cracking it. Studying this seismic activity will help scientists better understand the mysterious Martian interior, and they're looking forward to finding out as much as they can about the red giant. Number 6. Olympus Mons. Olympus Mons, or Mount Olympus, is a huge shield volcano on the surface of Mars. It's about 21.9 kilometers high according to the measurements provided by the Mars Orbiter Laser Altimeter. This staggering volcano is about 2.5 times Mount Everest height above sea level. In fact, it is considered the largest and the highest known volcano of the solar system, although some estimates suggest that the infamous Tamu Massif might have a greater surface area. Olympus Mons is also known as the tallest mountain in the solar system, but it is rivaled by the central mountain in the Rhea Silvia crater on Vesta. It is probably the youngest of all the large volcanoes on Mars and was formed during the Hesperia period, with eruptions continuing well into the Amazonian. It was discovered during the late 19th century as the albedo feature Nix Olympica, and the mountainous nature of this feature was suspected long before the space probe reached Mars and confirmed that it was in fact a mountain. The volcano is located in the western hemisphere of Mars, just off the northwestern edge of the Tharsis Bulge. It also has 2 impact craters that have been named the Kozok crater and the Pangboche crater. Both of these, along with several others, are the suspected source of shergottites. Number 7. Alien Doorway. The internet went crazy when a photograph from NASA's Curiosity rover appeared online and people immediately spotted a strange rectangular alien doorway on the Martian landscape. But experts are pretty sure it's nothing but a natural feature of the planet's terrain. Curiosity snapped the picture with its mast camera earlier this year, and afterwards it was released by NASA. Conspiracy theorists were quick to speculate that it could be a doorway to another dimension or a path that could lead us to the lost Martian society, but experts don't agree. It definitely looks like a doorway, but the geologic feature is just a shear fracture caused by strain on the rock that was perhaps aided by a Mars quake. British geologist Neil Hodgson, who studies the geology of Mars, called it a very curious image, but to him it looks like it's a product of natural erosion, and also it is barely 1 meter high. So does that mean Martians were small? People had all kinds of theories about it, from the tomb of Jesus to the crib of E.T., but in reality it's a shallow opening in the rock that was most certainly created by natural forces. Number 8. A face on Mars. A photograph of the Cydonia region on Mars, taken on the 25th of July 1976, sparked a debate online recently. The picture was of the infamous face on Mars and was captured by the Viking 1 spacecraft as it approached the red planet back in the day. The image features a giant humanoid-looking face carved out of or maybe built into the surface of Mars. Back in the day, NASA scientists believed it was just an illusion produced by the shadows and is a textbook case of pareidolia. A caption of the image said, "The huge rock formation in the center, which resembles a human head, is formed by shadows giving the illusion of eyes, nose, and mouth." But this didn't stop the alien enthusiasts from assuming that this was evidence for life on Mars. It wasn't until April 1998 that NASA's Mars Global Surveyor flew over Cydonia and took more photos that revealed NASA was right all along. This formation is a mesa 1.5 kilometers across, and the facial features were just shadows produced by its strange shape. More photos were snapped when the Mars Global Surveyor went back in April 2001 and by the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter that got a high-res image in 2007. All of these have further solidified the theory that it's just a natural feature. Number 9. Flowing water. Right now, Mars is a cold, dry world, but that doesn't mean during the ancient times the planet didn't have water. Research in the past few years has suggested that Mars once had a thicker, denser atmosphere capable of locking in far greater amounts of warmth and thereby facilitating the flow of liquid water on the surface below. There are clear signs of past water activity tracing across the Martian surface. A system of valleys in the southern highlands of Mars located east of a huge and famous crater called Huygens and north of Hellas, the largest impact basin on the planet, is one of the regions where evidence of flowing water has been observed. The topography of the region suggests that water flowed downhill from the north to the south, carving out valleys up to 2 kilometers across and 200 meters deep. These valleys are still standing today, however they have undergone significant and heavy erosion. The erosion is observable in the form of broken down, smoothed, fragmented, and dissected valley runs. The valley system appears to branch out, forming a pattern like tree branches originating from a central trunk. This dendritic morphology is also seen in drainage systems on Earth. On the surface of Mars, these branching channels were most likely formed by a once raging river flow combined with extensive rainfall. It is believed to have cut through the existing terrain of Mars, forging new paths and carving new landscape. Number 10. Carbon-rich rocks. A new study has revealed that the rock material collected on Mars contains the same type of carbon signals that are linked to living organisms on Earth. Scientists believe that the presence of any carbon could suggest that Mars once hosted ancient biological life, but they also think this finding could be related to some non-biological processes. The study is based on rock samples collected by NASA's Curiosity Explorer that first landed on the Red Planet in 2012. It has been exploring the areas around Gale Crater. The rover collected rock material from below the surface of Mars using its robotic arm. The samples obtained were subjected to high heat inside a chemistry laboratory on Curiosity, which led to the release of gas from the rock material. One of Curiosity's instruments was then able to measure isotopes from the carbon released by the heating process. Carbon is a vital element present in all life forms on Earth. Measuring its 2 naturally occurring isotopes could help scientists learn more about the carbon-related activities from Mars's past. The samples studied were found to have a large amount of carbon-12, which is used by living creatures on Earth to produce energy from food and the sun. Experts think that ancient bacteria on Mars may have released methane gas that was converted to larger and more complex molecules by the ultraviolet light. These molecules would have remained in the samples obtained by the Curiosity rover. Number 11. A smooth ball. A few years ago, the Curiosity rover found an odd ball-shaped object amongst the shaggy rocks in one of the pictures it took. The image was taken on Sol 746 of the rover's mission on Mars. The remarkable spherical rock is not the leftover of a Martian baseball game, as we'd like to think, nor does it have anything to do with aliens. But this smooth, rounded rock has garnered attention of geologists and planetary scientists from around the world, as it suggests there was water in the ancient past of Mars. According to MSL scientists based at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, the ball-shaped rock isn't as big as it looks. It is around 1 centimeter wide. They believe it is most probably something called concretion. More examples of concretion have been discovered on Mars, like the tiny hematite concretions observed by the Opportunity rover a while ago. Alien enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists are hesitant to accept that it's just a concretion. They think it could be evidence of aliens. But scientists have explained that the sphere most likely formed when minerals precipitated within sedimentary rock and formed the typical oval or spherical-shaped concretions. Number 12. South Pole Angel and Heart. In 2020, a high-resolution stereo camera on the European Space Agency's Mars Express captured mesmerizing scenery on the red planet. It was described as the defined wings of an angelic figure, complete with a halo, and there was a massive heart next to it. The couple of festive silhouettes appeared bright red in stark contrast to the light tan color of the surrounding sandy landscape. The space agency revealed that the dark color of the formation can be attributed to the composition of the sand dunes that are made up of minerals also found on Earth, like olivine and pyroxene. The south pole of Mars was experiencing summer at the time and was located right of the ethereal scene. In the winter season, the region would be covered by a mile-thick and 250 miles wide ice cap. Officials also said that the angel's hands appear to be reaching to the left and is probably a large sublimation pit that formed on the surface as ice turned to gas in the summer months. The head of the angel and its halo apparently formed when a celestial object slammed into the planet, revealing the subsurface layers. The heart is most likely formed by a line of cliffs that formed because of erosion. The breathtaking landscape also features Martian dust devils to the left of the angelic figure. Number 13. Blueberries. Just a few months after touchdown on Mars in 2004, NASA's Opportunity rover stumbled upon a geological anomaly. It found tiny, iron-rich spheres scattered across the rocky surface near its landing site. Scientists in good humor were included to name the objects blueberries. However, it was easier to name these tiny balls than to understand them. So far, the exact composition of these berries is not known. Besides their whimsical name, these tiny berries also suggest that during the ancient days, Mars was an incredibly wet planet. No matter what the exact chemistry of these spherules, the fact that they existed means there was a lot of liquid water on Mars and it moved around through the rocks over time. If scientists can somehow determine precisely how these blueberries came into being, it can help them understand what Mars was like back when these features were forming, and what sort of life may have thrived under those circumstances. The berries on Mars are about 1/10 the size of their equivalents on Earth, prominently found in Utah and Mongolia. The Martian berries are also less orderly, all bubbled up together according to planetary scientist Bryony Horgan. So far, scientists believe that the Martian blueberries are made of hematite and don't have a calcite heart like their earthly counterparts. This could point to a long period of overwash that chipped away all the calcite. Number 14. A tadpole. An image from the Mars Reconnaissance rover made headlines when people noticed that the impact crater featured in the photograph amusingly resembled a tadpole. This was due to the valley that was carved by water that used to fill it. It's not easy to differentiate between inlet and outlet channels, but water always flows downhill, and in case of this crater, we can assume that water flowed outward as we have the necessary terrain height specifics. By analyzing these images in detail, astronomers and geologists will be able to better understand the strengths of the water that flowed out of the crater and carved the channel. It will also help them find out more about the history of this bone-dry planet that, according to scientists, was pretty wet and watery back in the day. NASA revealed that the image of the tadpole crater was captured by a high-rise. The strange reptilian crater has a scaly structure, and there are numerous tiny rocks surrounding it. Would it be too far-fetched to speculate that the water in the crater could have been home to tiny tadpole-like creatures? Number 15. Dust devil tracks. The Martian winds are responsible for many unique features across the planet's surface, including the dark dunes and wispy streaks spotted in various images. These filament-like streaks are actually dust devil tracks. As the sun heats up the Martian ground during the day, vortices are formed that lift warm air from near the surface and whip up dust along with them. These are shaped and sculpted into swirling, column-shaped, tornado-like whirlwinds. These dust devils are often seen during the Martian spring and summer and last for a few months before their tracks get covered by dust that has been buffeted around by storms and winds. The curving, looping, crisscrossing web of tracks in the southern hemisphere of the planet were captured by the Mars Express around an escarpment feature called Calciporus Rupes. The two craters, Proctor and Russell, boasts dark and dense patches of rippling sand dunes, and the surrounding terrain is adorned with a broad web of dunes and tracks of past dust devil activity. Number 16. A spoon. The Curiosity rover by NASA spotted a mysterious floating spoon on the dusty surface of the red planet. The picture went viral online, and soon enough, all the alien enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists were pitching theories regarding its origin. The uncanny spoon shape was actually a rock photographed by Curiosity on August 30, 2015, during the rover's 1089th day on Mars. In the photo, a handle shape juts out of an outcrop and ends in a rounded tip, almost exactly like a spoon. It even casts a spoon-shaped shadow on the ground. According to NASA, this apparent spoon is not leftover debris from a Martian campsite or an alien kitchen. Like most other anomalous sightings on Mars, this one is also just a weird-shaped rock. NASA officials wrote in the description that it's not a spoon. The strange Mars feature is most likely a ventifact, a rock shaped by wind. But this is definitely not the first case of pareidolia associated with pictures from Mars. As mentioned earlier, a few years before the spoon became a sensation, many thought they saw a face carved in the Martian surface, but it was just a mesa. Number 17. Extraterrestrial meteorite. An iron meteorite sitting on the Martian sand was discovered by NASA's Opportunity rover, and it triggered a wide-ranging discussion. Scientists were keen to find out what this discovery is telling us about the planet itself, the past water conditions, and how frequently the planet got hit by fallen objects from space. The meteorite is almost the size of a basketball and is made up of nickel and iron. It is the first ever meteorite of any type to be identified on a planet other than Earth. It is now called a heat shield rock and was found at the Robots Exploration Zone, a massive and empty parking lot-like tract called the Meridiani Planum. Finding the meteorite was surprising and interesting, according to Steve Squires of Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. But now scientists have figured out how common are meteorites at Meridiani, and what does their concentration tell us about the erosion rates on the red planet. Scientists have named the meteorite Lebanon, probably because of its shape. Number 18. A bone. A 2014 Mars photo set the internet on fire when it resurfaced in tabloids back in 2020. It shows what looks like a femur bone amidst the rubble and dust of the Martian surface. Like most photos showing unexplainable things, this one also depicts an oddly shaped rock. The image was captured by the Curiosity rover's mass cam on the 14th of August 2014, and conspiracy theorists immediately declared it a proof of life on Mars. NASA, however, debunked this speculation, saying that the object seen by Mars's rover Curiosity may look like a femur thigh bone, but it isn't. Mission science team members believe its shape is likely sculpted by erosion, either by wind or water. If life did exist on Mars, scientists think it would be small and simple life forms like microbes, not evolved mammal-like creatures. Mars never actually had enough oxygen in its atmosphere to support complex, multicellular life, therefore finding large fossils is unlikely. Experts attributed this resemblance of the Martian rock to a femur, a typical case of pareidolia, and it frequently happens with things seen in pictures from Mars. People are probably trying too hard to find something familiar in the strange and unwelcoming terrain of Mars. Number 19. The Mars fish. Scientists believe Mars once had an ocean even bigger than the Arctic Ocean of Earth, but that doesn't mean the fish-shaped rock visible in a photo from Mars is actually a remnant of past aquatic life on the planet. In an image shared by NASA that was captured by the Curiosity rover's left navigation camera, people noticed a strange object near the bottom center. This is a rock that looks an awful lot like a fish you'd see swimming around in a lake. The shape of the rock and the lighting combine to form a distinctive fish-like figure, having a finned tail and an upturned nose. It was first spotted by a popular blog called UFO Sightings Daily. Some alien enthusiasts were pretty convinced that this fish sighting was serious evidence suggesting there may have been complex life on Mars. But we all know, like the face on Mars, the suspended spoon, and the femur bone, this one is also just a coincidental convergence of the right rock with the perfect play of shadows. Number 20. Smiley Face Crater. Gale is a crater on Mars located on the eastern rim of the huge impact basin Argea Planitia in the Argea Quadrangle. It's named after the German astronomer Johann Gottfried Galle. The crater is famous as the Happy Face crater, as pareidolia causes a curved mountain range in the southern part of the crater, and two smaller mountain clusters located further north make it look like a smiley face. The formation was first photographed by the Viking 1 orbiter. This isn't the only Happy Face crater on Mars, though. Another smiling crater, smaller than Gala, was discovered by the Mars Reconnaissance rover in the Noridian Montes on January 28, 2008. The goofy crater also has some blobby features that have changed shape because of the heat from the sun that is causing sublimation. Over the last few years, thermal erosion has made the mouth of the face bigger, and the nose that consists of two depressions has grown larger as the depressions have merged.